Hello. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jay Fidelina, and I'm here to talk about our work in identifying and updating the key biodiversity areas of the Philippines and our ongoing effort to develop standard protocols and identify minimum data sets to help facilitate the updating effort in the future. So these are the organizations and partners that are helping our efforts. So, key biodiversity areas, the technical definition is that these are sites that contribute significantly to the global persistence of biodiversity. Simply put, these are the most important areas for species and their habitats. It's important to note that KBAs are not a legal designation, it's a scientific designation, and KBAs are not necessarily protected areas. However, if there is a need to protect an area because of the biodiversity that it holds, there are various management options such as protected areas and other effective area-based conservation measures. KBAs are important because they are a fundamental input to conservation planning and priority setting. These are information on KBAs are often used to guide conservation investments and choosing where to prioritize our conservation and research efforts. It's also used by national and international bodies to identify important targets such as in the CBD, in the KMGBF, and in our Sustainable Development Goals. So in the Philippines, the KBA framework was first applied about 2 decades ago using so-called legacy criteria of vulnerability and irreplaceability. Basically, these are basing KBA identification on the presence of endemics and threatened species. So that initial effort led to the identification of 228 Philippine KBAs around 2012, so that's more than a decade ago. However, since that first effort, the IUCN has already released the 2016 Global KBAs Global Standard. So this standard provides a set of definitions, criteria, and thresholds, and delineation procedures for the identification of KBAs. So simply put, our KBAs have already been long outdated by that time. So the KBA criteria are designed to capture biodiversity at various levels, so from genetic to species and to ecosystem levels. And based on the 2016 standards, trigger elements to identify KBAs are now not only limited to species, but we can also look at assemblages and also ecosystems. Further, KBA identification based on the global standard now requires the recent confirmed presence of the trigger elements. So that means that data no more than 8 to 12 years old should be used in the KBA identification process. This also means that the KBA identification is iterative, with recommended updating every 8 to 12 years. So briefly, these are the criteria used in the global KBA standard. So we look at threatened biodiversity, which includes species and ecosystems, geographically restricted biodiversity, which includes species, assemblages, and ecosystems, ecological integrity, or sites with wholly intact ecological communities, sites that hold important demographic aggregations of species, sites that are ecological refugia in times of environmental stress, and also sites that serve as recruitment sources for various species. Lastly, sites that are deemed irreplaceable due to a specific type of complementarity analysis can also be designated as KBAs. So for each of these criteria and sub-criteria, there are specific thresholds that a trigger element should meet for a site to be considered a KBA. So different assessment parameters can be used in checking these thresholds. Primarily the number of mature individuals of the trigger species. But also, if this is not available, you can also look at area of occupancy, the extent of suitable habitat, the range of the species, the number of localities, and also the presence of distinct genetic diversity. For many of the species-based criteria, there is also a second threshold relating to the number of reproductive units present at the site. So for example, for plants, it can be 5 mature individuals for self-fertilizing species. For birds, for example, it can be 5 pairs or 5 activeness, etc. So our efforts started in 2024. We conducted several expert consultations through workshops, key informant interviews, focus group discussions, online worksheets, and personal communication with different biodiversity knowledge holders. We also did a lot of literature search to look for species occurrence data and distributions for our trigger elements. Potential KBAs and trigger elements were also identified using a scoping analysis tool developed by the IUCN KBA Secretariat. We also were able to conduct site visits and rapid assessments to collect updated information on selected KBAs. So all of these data were, So all of these data were consolidated and spatial analysis were conducted to identify overlaps with existing management and tenurial elements. So after all of that, as of July 2026, we have identified 316 Philippine KBAs covering about a fourth of our terrestrial land area and about a fifth of our marine waters. So just a comparison between the 2012 initial identification and our update today, from 228, we now have 316 KBAs in the Philippines. So going back to the criteria, while the global standard provides guidelines for the use of ecosystems and trigger elements, unfortunately, we are unable to use these criteria because first, ecosystem mapping has not yet been done completely in the Philippines. And second, the red list of ecosystems has not been applied yet to most Philippine ecosystems. So for the current updating iteration, only species-based criteria were applied. So just a brief run-through of the changes from the 2012 identification to today. So we were able to add significant number of trigger species for various taxa. So previously, they only looked at mammals, birds, reptiles, amphibians, and freshwater fishes. Our 2026 update now also includes insects, snails, spiders, and plants. So if you notice here, a lot of our trigger elements now are plants. Another thing that we also looked at is the fact that the threshold set by the global KBA standards necessitate the collection of minimum data sets. This includes species counts, which we would be able to use in identifying the number of reproductive units as well as the population size estimates. This also includes geotag occurrences, which we have been using to do spatial dataset mapping for our KBAs, which would help us in delineating our KBA boundaries. In addition to these, we also identified other data that would be good to have in our updating of information on these KBAs. So these include the threats and pressures present in each site, which will feed into the site profiles in the World Database of KBAs. Also habitat mapping, which would also help us do our delineation efforts and also in mapping the ecosystems present in a KBA. Alongside these minimum data sets, standardized sampling methods and protocols would also help in the long-term use of data collected in the KBAs. So we are guided by existing tools to develop these protocols, including the Manual on Biodiversity Assessment and Monitoring System for terrestrial ecosystems used in monitoring protected areas, the Sukat ng Kalikasan Toolkit, and also field sampling toolkit our lab has developed in our work in monitoring geothermal reservations in the Philippines. So we are currently testing these field sampling protocols for terrestrial plants, birds, bats, small mammals, amphibians, and reptiles. And so far we've identified the following minimum sampling effort, but we are still field testing these. So these include protocols for bat and bird mist netting, for bird point counts, for herbs or amphibians and reptile transects, for the quadrant sampling of terrestrial flora, and also the implementation of additional sampling methods that will supplement these minimum efforts, including the use of passive acoustic recording, So now we're using sound meter and a USB microphone for acoustic recording of bats and other wildlife, and also camera trapping using Browning camera traps. In terms of data analysis, our baseline data set would be the abundance based on counts, but we're also exploring the use of other population estimation analysis such as distance sampling to estimate population based on transient point count data, as well as random encounter and other models for camera trap data. Our next steps include ongoing analysis of our data from our first pilot site, the Aglipay Caves KBA on Luzon Island. And we also have upcoming field validation surveys on Mount Bandelaan in Siquijor, Mount Sugarloaf in the Zamboanga Peninsula, and the Casanag watershed on Tablas Island. Thank you. And for anyone with information on Philippine KBAs, you can still contribute. Our effort is still ongoing. So for the Philippine contingent here, you can contribute photos for relevant wildlife and sites. And you can also contribute additional data on trigger elements using these QR codes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr.